welcome all of you to the Scholar First Institute live class for UGC NET JRF. Today, I, Amol Shankar Mukherjee, will be your faculty mentor along with you in today's session. So, in paper 1, we are focusing on to the paper 1. So, paper 1, there is an unit 1, that is the teaching aptitude. So, we will have the discussions on the different modules of the teaching aptitudes that was there in the paper 1. Now, if I'm asking you exactly what is teaching aptitude, that teaching aptitude, that is the intrinsic qualities that you have for the teaching, along with the skills that you are generated from the field. They combine give you a particular intentions of teaching and your expertizations in the teaching. So this particular unit deals with the different sections or different modules, like the different types of teachings, level of teachings, different level of learnings, different teaching methods, the difference of them, exactly what are the effectivity of each and every teaching methods. So we will go step by step to this different modules of this unit, and we will have the discussions. Now, the thing is that we will have to focus not on the elaborate discussions, but on the exactly the focal point, that is the characteristics, features, outcome, and exactly effectivity. That we will have to focus here. Because if we are understanding these things, then the questions that will come from these sections, then we will be able to answer. Let me move in sequence with this. First, we are coming into the what is teaching. Now, there are lots of definitions that was given by the different educationalists. So I will first tell that Edmund Amidon, he has described the teaching as teaching is an interactive process involving classroom talk. Whereas John Dewey described it as education is a reconstruction of experience. N.L. Gage described the teaching as teaching is a process of guiding learners towards desirable behavioral changes. What are the key points of the teaching or the steps? That is a planned, interactive, goal-oriented, continuous, and it is purely learner-centered. Next, we come on to the nature of teaching. What exactly teaching is, or what exactly teaching covers? Teaching is social process, dynamic process, it is goal-oriented, interactive, scientific, artistic. It is of continuous practice, creative as well as developmental. Now, one thing you should keep in mind, that teaching is both science and art. What science gives, science follows the principles, and art requires the creativity. Both are accompanied in the form of teaching. So teaching is both science and art. Now we move on to the characteristics of the good teaching. An effective teacher motivates learner, communicates clearly, encourages participation, uses appropriate methods, provides feedback, assesses learning continuously, creates positive classroom, promotes critical thinking. Now, if we're adjoining all these things, we can cite a particular classroom example which can describe exactly the output of teaching. Now, instead of only lecturing, if the teacher asks the student, why do leaves fall during autumn? So teacher is not going to directly giving a lecture on autumn, but asking a question from their real life experience, that why do leaves fall during autumn? Automatically students are getting interested. They will give the answer. They will have a discussions with the teachers, and teacher will facilitate to learn about the autumn to the student. So this is the way of teaching that is necessary to be done. Now, objective. What is the objective of teaching? We have the three different domains of the learning outcome or development. One is the cognitive domain, then is the affective domain, and there are the psychomotor domain. So each and every of the teaching skills must lead or headed towards the development of all these three domains. Now, what are the features of the cognitive domain? That is the development of knowledge, understanding, application, analysis skills, evaluation, and creation. So that are necessary to have the target for any of the teaching. Moving on to the affective domain. Affective domain includes attitudes, values, interest, and empathy. Now, only cognition and affection is not only the motto of the teaching. There will have a psychomotor domain also, where the teacher should have well acquainted with the different skills in the form of teaching that can be shown by the body exposure, facial exposure, their expressions, etc. So psychomotor domain includes practical skills, manipulation, coordination, and performance. Now, let's have a differentiation or comparison, teaching versus training versus instruction and versus indoctrination. Just we are discussing the points that what are exactly the features of teaching, what we are getting in training, what exactly that is done in instruction, and what are there in the indoctrination. The teaching covers the develops thinking, it is learner-centered, and it is interactive. Whereas, in case of training, it develops skills, practice-based, and it is repetitive. If we are moving on to the instruction, instruction gives the direction, it is totally content-oriented, and it is one-way approach. If it is indoctrination approach, it imposes beliefs, it is authority-centered, and it is dogmatic. So these are, if we are comparing structure-wise, the comparison of the different approaches, that is the teaching, training, instruction, and indoctrination. Now we'll move on to the component of teaching. Exactly what are the features or what are the components that are there in the teaching? Teacher starts with the teacher. So if you are moving on to the hierarchy, it is teacher to learner, then learning objectives, then teaching methods, learning experience, after that assessment and feedback. So if we are just following up these components, there are the three phases. One is the planning for teaching, interaction part, and post-evaluation. What are there in planning? That is the teacher, learner, learning objective. This is the planning part. Then interaction part, that is the teaching method, learning experience. This is the interaction part, where teacher is being continuously interacting with the students. After that, it requires to assess or evaluate. So we will move on to the post-evaluation phase, that is assessment and feedback. In short, these components of teachings are defined or described as PIP. This is a memory trick. It is easy for you to remember, as well as in that way the question may come into your NET examination. So PIP means first P stands for planning, I for interaction, the second phase of teaching, and P, the post-evaluation, the third phase of teaching. Right. So these are the components of teaching. Now we are moving on to the phases. Okay. So as from the components, you have come to know exactly the three stages of there. There is the planning part, interaction part, as well as the post-evaluation part. So coming on to that particular comparison, we can move on to the phases of teaching. So phases of teaching, there are the three phases of teaching. Number one, the pre-active phase. Number two, the interactive phase. And number three, that is the post-active phase. These are the three phases of teaching. Now, what are there in pre-active phases? What are the steps? What are the stages are there? In pre-active phase, the stages are planning, objectives, lesson plan, and teaching aids. In interactive phase, there are also the 4 steps or 4 stages. That is the teaching, questioning, explanation, and discussion. If you are moving on to the post-active phase, post-active phase is the 3 phases that is included the post-evaluation part. So it includes evaluation, reflection, exactly the simulations of the teaching with the students' experience, and improvement. So these are the 3 phases of the teaching: pre-active phase, interactive phase, and post-active phase. Now we are moving on to the levels of teaching. So in case of levels of teaching, exactly what do you mean levels of teaching? The question may come, what is the level of teaching? Obviously, it may have the multiple answers and you will have to choose the right one, but you have to know exactly what is the levels of the teaching. The levels of teaching refers to the quality and depth of classroom interaction between the teacher and the learner. That how the interactions of the teachers and learners are taking part, up to which depth of the learner's understanding it goes. That exactly mark the level of teaching. There are the 3 levels. Number 1, that is the memory level teaching. In short, it is said as MLT. Second, the understanding level teaching. In short, it is described as ULT. And the third level is the reflective level of teaching, that is the RLT. As I have already mentioned here, different questions that are coming from this different level of teaching in the NET examinations. So individually, I move on to the different level of teaching. First, I am addressing the memory level teaching or MLT. Who has developed this method? The memory level teaching, it was developed by John Frederick Hubbard. He has defined and also implemented and shown how the memory level teaching will function. One by one I come, what are the characteristics of memory level teaching? It is teacher-centered. It based on rote memorization. It tries to recall of facts. It is low learner participation, and it is specifically textbook oriented. This is the memory level teaching form. What are the advantages that we are getting through the memory level teaching? It is suitable for beginners because it builds the foundational knowledge. In case of advanced learner, already the foundation knowledge was there. It is necessary to nurture it and to develop the further knowledge. So the memory level teaching is necessary, or it is very much useful for the beginners level. Is there any limitation for MLT? Yes, of course, there is a limitation. It discourages creativity, and there is no chance of critical thinking in memory level teaching. Can I cite one example? Now, you may ask question, sir, what is the necessity of example? Because whenever a question will come, it may not directly giving the definition. It giving a particular situation and ask you, finding out which particular level of teaching is described here. Then you will have to identify. So example is very much necessary. So memory level teaching, what the example we can provide? The teacher is going to teach the multiplication table to the students. There's the kids one, the class 2 or 3 level. Now, what the teacher is doing that, teacher is just giving some of the multiplication form, 1 into 1, 1, 1 into 2, 2, like that he has given and told the students, try to memorize it by heart. So this approach that the teacher is providing, that he is undergoing the memory level teaching only on the basis of rote memorization, right? So second, we are moving on to the understanding level of teaching or ULT. This particular level of teaching was developed by Morrison. What are the characteristics? It is learner understands concepts. So it is learner oriented. It needs active participation. Here the teacher guides the learner. Teacher is not asking to memorize it. Teacher guides the learner. It is based on logical explanation. It emphasizes on comprehension type. So these are the characteristics. Now, again, I'm giving an example for it. Physics teacher, he is going to teach the Newton's laws of motion. So all the 3 laws, the statements are there. So if he is following the MLT, he will straight give the statement of the laws and ask the student to memorize it. But in case of understanding level of teaching, teacher is not at all firstly describing the statement. He is asking about the outcome of a situation. What he says, he asks the student, can you tell me why seat belts are necessary in the car? So if the student is going to give the proper answer to this question, the teacher will relate it with the first law of motion and then he will state the first law. So this is the method of understanding. That means the teacher is focusing on to the student's level of understanding. On the basis of that, he is teaching particular topic. That is the understanding level of teaching, which was developed by Morrison. Now, I am moving on to the most effective and necessary method of teaching. That is the reflective level of teaching. That is RLT. This particular level of teaching, it was developed by Morris L. Bigge and Hunt. Especially this is popular with Hunt's level of teaching. Exactly what are the characteristics? Number one, this is the highest level of teaching. It deals with problem solving. It focuses onto the critical thinking. It is independent learning, and it focuses onto the creativity and innovation. So it nurtures the students' knowledge and allows the students to do some work innovatively. And on that particular perspective, teacher will relate the students' creative thought and innovation in the method of teaching and ask the student to do a particular teaching progressions. So that is the reflective level of teaching, which is the highest level of teaching as it was developed by Hunt. If I'm just citing one example, if I'm classroom example, if I'm giving, how can AI improve education while protecting student privacy? Now, if I'm just opening up this particular situation in front of the student, or I'm opening up this particular teacher is opening up this particular situation in front of the student, what the student will do? Student will debate. They will do the cross discussions. Okay, analyze the evidence, and then they will propose a particular solution. And that solution will be generated on the basis of students' ideology and discussions. On that perspective, connecting those solutions, teacher can try to understand, make the student understand the artificial intelligence and its effectivity. So this is the form of reflective level of teaching that may be pursued. So we have discussed the three levels of teaching. Harvard's method, that is the memory level teaching. Morrison's method, that is the understanding level of teaching. Hunt and Bigge method, that is the reflective level of teaching. In short, they are called HMH level. That is easy to understand, easy to memorize, as well as you may get this type of short form in your questions in the NET paper. Now, this is a time where we can just have a comparison. Exactly what are the features that are necessary to be obtained from teaching, and how the memory level teaching, understanding level teaching, and reflective teaching giving those features. So now we are just having a comparative chart showing the differences and the outcome that are generated for the three different teaching levels. Now start with the different features, then I am moving on to the different levels outcome. First, developer. Who has developed these teaching levels? Memory level, Harvard. Understanding, Morrison. Reflective, Hunt and Bigge. What is the teacher's role? In memory level, teacher's role is dominant. In understanding level, teacher's role is facilitator. And in reflective level, teacher's role is only as a guide. What is the student role difference? In memory levels, student role is passive because the dominant role is teacher and everything is done by the teacher. Understanding level, student role is active. And in reflective level, student role is independent. because it is totally dependent on the case study and situation dependent teaching. Now, thinking process, memory level is based on the recall status. Understanding level, it is the comprehension method or mode of teaching. And in reflective level, it is critical thinking. In case of creativity feature, in memory level, the creativity is very low. Practically, there is no chance of creativity here. In understanding level, it is moderate one. And in reflective level, there is a high chance or high scope of creativity. So in that way, we can define the features of the three different levels of teaching. Try to understand this very thing, because you may get the questions from the different features on the teaching levels for the three categories of the level of teaching, that is MLT, ULT, and RLT. So full teaching method, it is developed on the taxonomy of the teaching. Okay, so I can just here describe exactly what are the taxonomy of the teaching and exactly what are the features over there. The original taxonomy that was developed by Benjamin Bloom in 1956, and it is defined as Bloom's taxonomy. This is the original taxonomy. On this basis, all the teaching method, learning strategy, everything is defined or inculcated. In case of Bloom's taxonomy, learning progresses from simple to complex. It starts from the easier thing, then gradually it enters into the complex process. What are the steps and what it includes the Bloom's taxonomy? Knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. These are the stages, or these are the taxonomic domain where we are keeping always the objectives of teaching, and each and every learner has have a learning outcome development on all those stages of the taxonomic domain. There is knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, evaluation. If you are moving on to the classroom illustration, how it moves, it starts from remember, then moving on to the understand, then apply, then analyze, then create, and then judge or evaluate. These are the stoichiometry or the movement of the classroom learning experiences of the teacher. Now we are moving on to that is Bloom's taxonomy. This was the older form. Later on, the Bloom's student, Lauren Anderson, he has just changed the taxonomic concept. He has thought of that all the development process of the learner is not an instant feature in the classroom. It is a continuous process which starts outside the classroom to inside the classroom, as well as after the classroom being over. So it's a continuous process. So Anderson's revised Bloom's taxonomy, that was revised in 2001, and he has given the domain in that way, that is remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Maximum cases, his stratifications of these domains are remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. The ing describes the continuity of each and every domain process, because according to the Anderson, the development is a continuous process which includes outside experience of the class, classroom experience, as well as post experience after the class. So exactly what is the key change of the student to the taxonomic domain? Creation becomes the highest order of the cognitive skill. Of all those skills, exactly the highest order you are finding out from the revised Bloom's taxonomy, there is a highest order cognitive skill is creation. That means ability of the student to be generated where the student can develop certain things or to have the creativity in their own side after the completion of a particular lesson. So creation, that is the highest order cognitive skill. Now, if I'm giving one example that how in the form of teaching we can proceed on to all this development, that means remember stage to creativity stage in the different phase. Let the topic that is teacher is going to teach in the class, that is environmental pollution. How the teacher will start and proceed? First, remember stage or remembering stage of the revised Bloom's taxonomy. So teacher is defining pollution. Second, understanding. So teacher explain the causes. Third, applying. How the concept that is developed to the understanding can be applied. Teachers suggest local solution. Then analyze, compare the urban and rural pollution stages. And then evaluate, ask the students to judge exactly the policies for effective environmental pollution awareness can be generated. And in that way, there may be a creative approach. Teacher can ask the student to design an awareness campaign with it. So if the student is able to do it, that means creativity is developed within the student or it has been nurtured. Student is able to develop the campaigning session. So that is the taxonomy of the domain. So in this way, we have the different learning domains that you are getting. Cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. Cognitive domain includes knowledge, thinking, reasoning. Affective domain includes attitudes, values, emotions. Psychomotor domain includes skills, coordination, and practical performances. Now, if I'm citing one example, how these three levels of learning domains can be aspired or done. Example, driving a car. This is a particular issue or one particular learning outcome development to be developed on it. Cognitive, following the traffic rules. Affective, responsible attitudes. That shows the affective domain. And steering and braking control, it shows the psychomotor domain. So collaborating all these three domains, a particular effective driving of car is possible. So we are here with the different learning domain that we have. Now we are moving on to the teaching skills. The teaching know-how is given. But whenever the teacher is being pursued in the class or classroom session, different skills must be developed within the students. How to start up, how to move the progression, how to ask the questions, how to complete out the lesson, how the feedback, analysis and feedback can be taken. So in that way, the different skills are necessary to be developed. What are the essential teaching skills? Questioning skill, reinforcement skill, explaining skill, stimulus variation, blackboard skill, classroom management, use of ICT, communication skill, feedback skill, and evaluation skill. Okay, these are the different skills that are essential to be developed within the teacher to give a proper or effective teaching. Each and every skill, if the teacher is going to have the expertization of each and every skill, we will have to do the micro teaching. That means we will take up a small section of the teaching lesson plan. We will consider only 5 or 10 students, and we will try to develop each and every of these skills by applying our teaching aptitude to that particular students. These are the micro teaching. So what exactly we can define as the micro teaching? Micro teaching is a teacher training technique where teaching is practiced on a small topic for a small group of students for a short duration. What is the standard format of micro teaching? Normally, we are taking only 5 to 10 students. One particular teaching skill is delivered for 5 to 10 minutes. One particular teaching skill is focused only among all those teaching skills that I have discussed on the last slide. Immediate feedback. And of course, if some of the problems are found out, then reteaching. So there is a micro teaching cycle for combining all these features. So micro teaching cycle is plan, teach, feedback, then replan, then reteach, and re-feedback. This is the complete micro teaching cycle by which one particular skill expertization can be developed within the teacher. So this micro teaching cycle is very much important for you. I'm again repeating the cycle stages. This is the plan, teach, feedback, replan, reteach, and refeedback. This is the total micro teaching cycle. So within this discussion, what we can have, we just having an example of some of the MCQs that we can exactly simulate your learning along with the question. Now, questions are coming in this way. For example, whatever the first question I have given, who proposed the memory level teaching? This question is given, and they have given the 4 answers, which are very near to each other because you already come to know the proposed level of teachings. They have given the option Morrison, Harbert, Hunt, Dewey. You will have to pick up the right choice. What will be the right choice? Of course, for the memory level, it will be Harbert. But for that reason, you require to understand these things. Okay. Can I move on to the second type of question? The question is given, which is the highest level of teaching? They have given the 4 options: memory, understanding, reflective, instructional. You'll have to choose the right one. You know the creative, that is the reflective mode, is the highest level of teaching. So of course the answer will be reflective. If you have given an example of the third question, the question is given in this way, that in Anderson's revised Bloom's taxonomy, the highest cognitive process is given the 4 options: A, evaluation, B, analysis, C, creation, and D, understanding. Can you say what will be the right choice? Of course, it will be the right choice will be the creation, right? So in that way, the concept is extracted and put down in such type of questions, giving alternative answers, and you will have to choose the proper answer or the right answer from it. Okay, so we will move on to the next phase. Now we come on to the learner characteristics. That is another particular bullet or sections of your teaching aptitude, learner characteristics. But before moving on to it, we have to know who is learner. Now, a learner is an individual who actively acquires knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values through formal or informal educational experiences. They are considered as the learner. What may be the major characteristics of learner? Number 1, cognitive development. Number 2, emotional maturity. Number 3, social behavior. Number 4, motivation. Number 5, interests and aptitudes. Number 6, learning readiness. And number 7, individual differences. That is those are the major characteristics of the learners. Can I cite one classroom example of the learner? See, two students may score similarly in an exam, but differ greatly in creativity, communication skill, and problem-solving abilities. So automatically, they are the two different learners. That means scoring same score of the two learners does not identify them as the same type of learner. It totally depends on their creativity, communication skill, and problem-solving abilities, how they are differ. And that way, it differs one learner from the other. So it can be directly said, no two learners are exactly alike. Each and every learner has a difference on the basis of their characteristics. Now, of course, from these particular discussions, you come to know there is a different individual differences among all the learners. So now we come to know exactly how the individual differences occur among the different learners that are there in the classroom session. First, start with the meaning of individual difference. Now, individual differences refer to the unique physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and cultural characteristics of learners. What are the types by which we can differentiate one learner to the other learner? But through intelligence, personality, learning speed, language ability, socio-economic background, prior knowledge or interest, and learning styles. By this, we can differentiate one learner from other learners. So these are the different types of individual differences which differentiate one learner from the other. What is the implication of this individual difference for teachers? With the idea of this individual difference, the teachers can differentiate instruction for the different learners, use multiple teaching methods, and of course, avoid comparing students. One student cannot be compared with the other. Each and every student have their individual difference, and they will have to do the excellent on the basis of their own individual characteristics. So comparison between the two students is forbidden for a particular teacher. A teacher should not compare. The teacher has to identify each and every student by their own characteristics and suggest the different instruction methodology according to the individual need of the students. Because, again, the same thing, no two learners are exactly alike. Now we're moving on to the learning styles. Common learning preferences, that means what exactly we are using in the teaching methods and how it affects the learning method. So learning style, within the learning style, we can describe the visual learning, auditory learning, learning through read and write process, and kinesthetic learning. Visual learning, in this particular phase, learner preferences are use of pictures, diagrams, charts. In auditory style, it prefers to the listening, discussion. In read and write mode, it requires the notes, books, articles. In kinesthetic form of learning, it totally deals with the hands-on activities. Let me cite individual example, classroom example for each and every of these learning styles. Visual, for example, our objective, teacher is going to teach the solar system. In this particular teaching strategy, the visual style the teacher can follow up with the animated video he or she can use. Auditory part, teacher's explanation that the teacher is explaining in front of the students. Read and write part, teacher will provide the proper study notes or materials to the student for their preparation. Kinesthetic part, teacher can active the students in making the different models of the solar system within the classroom. That is the kinesthetic learning. So these are the different examples of the different learning styles that can be provided in a classroom sessions. Now, the very important part for all this teaching and learning sessions, that is the motivation. So now we are discussing with the motivation in learning. There's a very important part in the teaching aptitudes of the NET preparatory study, and lots of questions that are coming from this particular part also. So first start with what is motivation? Now, motivation is the internal or external force that initiates, directs, and sustains learning behavior. That is the motivation. It is the urge to learn, because everything cannot be imposed by the method of teaching. If you are not having the urge or intention of learning, nobody will be able to teach you anything. Okay, so motivation is the internal or external force that initiates, directs, and sustains learning behavior. What are the types of motivation? Number one, intrinsic motivation. Number two, extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation covers curiosity, interest, personal satisfaction. Extrinsic motivation covers marks, rewards, certificates, and praise. Whenever you are getting this, then you are also motivating to learn much. Now, exactly what is the teacher's role in creating the motivation among the learners? Number one, encourage curiosity. Number two, provide constructive feedback. Three, create achievable challenges. And four, celebrate efforts as well as achievement. So these are there where there is a role of the teacher to create the motivations of the learner. Now, how we can create the positive classroom environment? Exactly, we have to know exactly what is the features of the positive classroom and what is the teacher's responsibility in creating this positive classroom environment. So let's start with the features of an effective classroom. What are the features? Respect, inclusion, psychological safety, active participation, collaboration, student engagement, and mutual trust. These are the features of an effective classroom. What is the role of the teacher or the responsibility of the teacher to create such positive classroom? Number one, listen actively. To whom? To students. Number two, encourage questions. Number three, respect diversity. Number four, promote teamwork. And number five, manage conflicts constructively. These are the teacher's responsibility in creating a positive classroom. Now we discuss what are the factors that continuously affect the teaching. First, teacher-related factors. What are the components of teacher-related factors? Number 1, subject knowledge. Number 2, communication skill. Number 3, personality. Number 4, teaching experience. And number 5, classroom management. Learner-related factors, what are the components? Motivation, readiness, prior knowledge, attention span, and health. Next, we come on to the institutional factors. What are the institutional factors? Proper infrastructure, ICT facilities, library resources, administrative support, and class size. Then environmental factors. What are the environmental factors? Noise, lighting, seating arrangement, and technology access. These are the 4 modality of the factors which constantly affecting teaching. Next, we come to the quality of an effective teachers. Now, we can quote that a good teacher explains, but a great teacher inspires. This was quoted by William Arthur Ward about the good teacher. So we can have the different component of a good teacher. First, we discuss about the professional qualities that an effective teacher may have. Number 1, subjective expertise, pedagogical knowledge, planning ability, time management, and fair assessment. These are the professional qualities that are required to be an effective teacher. What are the personal qualities? Empathy, patience, integrity, and enthusiasm, and adaptability. Digital competencies that are also required for an effective teacher. What are the digital competency? ICT integration, online teaching, AI awareness, and digital communication. Let me discuss about the professional ethics of teachers. So what are the ethical responsibilities of the teacher? 1, fairness in assessment. 2, respect for diversity. 3, confidentiality. 4, honesty. 5, professional conduct. 6, lifelong learning. Now, there are some unethical practices which should be avoided by a teacher. Biasness, favoritism, discrimination, plagiarism, and harassment. These are the unethical practices, and each and every teacher should avoid these things. Okay, so next we move on to the inclusive teaching. Inclusive teaching ensures that every learner, regardless of ability, background, gender, language, or disability, has equal opportunities to learn. What are the strategies for inclusive teaching? 1, universal design for learning, UDL, flexible teaching methods, accessible learning materials, collaborative learning, positive reinforcement. Give an example. I'm giving an example of inclusive teaching. Providing lecture notes in accessible digital formats and allowing multiple ways for students to demonstrate learning. So classroom example I'm providing lecture notes in accessible digital formats and allowing multiple ways for students to demonstrate learning. Now we come on to the constructivist teaching. What is constructivism? Learners actively construct knowledge based on prior experiences rather than passively receiving information. What are the teacher's role here? Facilitator, guide, mentor, learning designer. This is the teacher's role. What is the learner's role? Explore, investigate, collaborate, and reflect. So questions may come onto this particular thing. As I have given example for the previous part also. Now see, one question comes in that way. Which of the following is an example of intrinsic motivation? They have given the choices. See, the choices are very close to each other. A, prize money. B, promotion. C, curiosity to learn. And D, certificate. You will have to choose the best choice. So, of course, according to my discussion, it is very clear that curiosity to learn is the example of intrinsic motivation. That means you will have to give the highest order choice, right? Come on to the next question. If the question is given in this way, which principle is most closely associated with inclusive teaching? Okay, teaching. So they have given the choices. A, uniform instruction for all students. B, equal opportunities for diverse learners. C, memorization of facts. D, competitive learning only. So you will have to choose the best one. And of course, you will choose the choice B, that is equal opportunity for diverse learning. That is most closely associated with the inclusive teaching. If we give a choice of the second question, now if the question is given in this way, in constructivist teaching, the primary role of the teacher is A, dictate note. B, facilitate learning. C, evaluate only. And D, deliver lectures exclusively. What will be the right choice? Of course, facilitate learning. Because in constructivistic teaching, teacher's role is the facilitator. He or she will always provide facilitation of the learning. So facilitate learning, B will be the choice of your answer. Proper answer. Now we're moving on to the different phase, next phase, that is the activity-based learning. Activity-based learning, or in short form, it is ABL. Now, what is activity-based learning? Activity-based learning is a learner-centered approach where students actively participate in meaningful learning experiences rather than passively receiving information. What are the features for it? Key features: learning by doing, active participation, collaboration, creativity, and reflection. What are the benefits that we are getting from this activity-based learning? Number one, improves retention, enhances critical thinking, develops teamwork, and makes learning enjoyable. Move to the experiential learning, that is developed by Kolb. There is a Kolb's learning cycle. In that way, it is defined. David Kolb's experiential learning cycle. What is a cycle? Concrete experience, then reflective observation, then abstract conceptualization, then active experimentation, and then returns to new experience. Okay, so these are the experiential learning, that is the Coles learning style provide. So if we are moving on to the, again, some of the previous year questions like that, and try to finding out exactly the choice, exactly which one is the exact choice or perfect choice for particular question, then it will be easier for us to understand the question and choosing the particular answer. Let's take one particular question that has already come. The reflective level of teaching primarily promotes, they have given 4 options. A, memorization. B, recall. C, critical thinking. D, mechanical learning. So these 4 choices are given. Now, what will be reflective level is connected with critical thinking. So, of course, the right answer will be C, the critical thinking. So, whenever we are providing the answer, we keep in the mind exactly the concept of that particular term. And on that particular basis, we are choosing which one is the correct answer for that particular question. Move on to the next question. Next question, that is the memory level of teaching, was proposed by, who have proposed? They have given the choices: Dewey, Morrison, Harbert, and Piaget. So, of course, Harbert will be the answer, because Harbert proposed and started up the memory level of teaching. So, you will have to remember all the 3 level of teaching, that is the MLT, ULT, and RLT, and exactly the name of their proposal. And on that basis, you will have to pick up the particular choice here, that since memory level of teaching is given, and since Harvard was proposed that particular thing, so answer will be Harvard. Now we're moving on to the question 3. Next question. Say the question is given in this way: which of the following is the highest cognitive level in Anderson revised taxonomy? So they have given the 4 choices: A, evaluate; B, apply; C, create; and D, analyze. Of course, Anderson's revised taxonomy, the highest order of teaching was the create. So, of course, the answer will be here, create. That is the choice C. Now, move to the 4th question. So, if it is asked in this way, that which teaching approach emphasizes active knowledge construction by learners? So, active knowledge construction by learners, they have given the 4 choices: A, lecture method; B, constructivist approach; C, drill method; D, dictation method. Of course, lecture method, drill method, dictation one, it is not related with the active knowledge, because this is not involved with the students' active participation, but only students' active participation is involved in constructivist approach. So here the answer will be the constructivist approach, that is the choice B. So in that way, when the question will come, we will have to keep it in mind, that particular thought in our mindset, exactly how we can connect with the particular term given in the question, with the concept or knowledge that was given, and then identify the effective answer and choose the right one or right answer. So to today's overall discussions uh, for the unit 1, there is a first phase of the uh, teaching aptitude. We can do a quick revision exactly what we are have discussed and what we come to know exactly from the today's session. Number 1, teaching is interactive and goal oriented. Keep it in mind. This is an important point that I'm doing a revision work to keeping the focus onto it. So number 1, I have told teaching is interactive and goal oriented. Number 2, there are the 3 levels of teaching. One is memory, understanding, and reflective. So 3 level of teaching, that is memory level teaching, MLT, understanding level teaching, ULT, and reflective level teaching, RLT. Then we come to the Bloom's taxonomy, which guides learning outcome. Of course, we have firstly the Bloom's taxonomy. That was initially all the learning strategies that was developed on the basis of Bloom's taxonomy, and which was including knowledge, understanding, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, creation. Then it is changed in 2001 by the Lauren Anderson, and the revised Bloom taxonomy was given, where it focuses on the learner-centered model and think of that learning is a continuous process which can include pre-class, in-class, and out-class. Okay, and this particular revised Bloom's taxonomy includes remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. All these are the features of the revised Bloom taxonomy by our Anderson's taxonomy. Then we have gone through learners differ. How they differ in abilities, interests, and motivation. Effective teaching. Effective teachers, what they do: facilitate, motivate, and assess continuously. Inclusive and constructivist teaching always promote meaningful learning. So these are the things we have gone through it, and I've given a revision. I'm again re-revising the points so that you can keep it in mind and you can do your reading exercises in the study materials that we have provided on the basis of these particular aspects. So what exactly we have discussed or focused? Number 1, teaching is interactive and goal-oriented. Number 2, 3 levels of teaching: memory, understanding, reflective. 3, Bloom's taxonomy guides learning outcomes. 4, learners differ in abilities, interests, and motivation. Effective teachers facilitate, motivate, and assess continuously. Inclusive and constructivist approach promote meaningful learning. So these are the approaches that we have gone through in stage-by-stage manner in today's discussions. Just I'm briefing exactly what are the key takeaways. That is what exactly we are taking away from today's lesson for our throughout lesson journey in this period. So what are the key takeaways? Number 1, this is a very important. Teaching is both an art and a science. Learning is learner-centered and lifelong process. Effective teaching requires planning, communication, and reflection. Technology enhances teaching when used purposefully. And last, I want to mention that UGC NET question, whatever I've discussed also, it emphasizes conceptual clarity rather than memorization. Only you can memorize, it is not necessary for you, or it is not sufficient for you to give the correct answer. You will have to understand, and you will have to follow up all those terms, simulate those terms along with the question. Then only you can give the proper answer and you can score. So again, I'm repeating exactly the key takeaways that we have on our throughout journey. Number one, teaching is both an art and a science. Second, learning is learner-centered and lifelong process. Effective teaching requires planning, communication, and reflection. Now, technology always enhances teaching when used purposefully. And again, I am refocusing onto that UGC NET question always emphasize on the conceptual clarity, not on the memorization. So don't do the rote learning. Just try to understand these things, and accordingly, you just finding out the proper choice of a particular question given, and then you can only answer properly.